So the buzz in Iowa is that there is Marco Mentum, that you are rising. Do you feel it? Does that seem
Well, we feel
accurate?
good about our team and the work we've done here. What it leads to, we'll see. Obviously, and Ted is the front runner. He's got 10,000 volunteers. He's put a lot of resources and time, got every endorsement he wanted. So he's clearly the favorite, but we feel good about our work and the work we've done here and what that translates to in future states. And we love being in Iowa. I mean, the people here have been fantastic. It's been a very rewarding experience. So I do feel good. Our crowds are growing. The people signing up are growing. Our campaign structure feels good about it. So we'll see what it leads to, but I feel real good about Wednesday. We're going to have a strong showing on Monday night.
I was just talking to Senator Cruz and asked him why should people pick him over you, and he said that you both ran in 2010 promising that you would block amnesty, and he kept his promise and you broke your promise.
Yeah, so the lie that his whole campaign is built on is that he's the only conservative and everyone else is a sellout and a rhino, and it's absurd, even on immigration. I mean, he helped design George W. Bush's immigration policy. He talked openly in an interview, national interview, about needing to reach a compromise on people that are here illegally. I mean, there's a tweet that was going around yesterday that he put out during the immigration debate talking about legalization. He said he wanted to bring people out of the shadows. He said he wanted to obviously pass immigration reform. So I think it's just not an accurate statement. I've tried to fix a problem that's a very serious issue in Texas and in Florida, and it's a hard issue. And clearly, we're not going to be able to do it comprehensively, and we're not going to be able to do it until we first enforce our immigration laws. But I don't support amnesty. We're not going to have amnesty when I'm president. There's going to be real consequences for violating our law. But this whole notion Ted has that he's the only conservative, I think as people learn more about his record, they'll realize what he really is very calculated. He's always looking to take whatever position it takes to win votes or raise money. And we're not going to beat Hillary Clinton with someone that will say or do anything to get elected.
One of the things Cruz said was that you gave an interview to Univision, to Jorge Ramos, in which you said in Spanish that you would not try to undo the executive actions President Obama made when it came to illegal.
That's also inaccurate. That just never happened. What I've always said is that the president's DAPA on adults needs to be, well, now it's being stayed by a court, but I'll repeal it. And DACA needs to end too. And I've always said that. The only thing with DACA is, people that are on it now will not be allowed to re-register, and we shouldn't be adding new people to it. And that's consistently been my position. So it's just not accurate. I mean, at the end of this election here, he's just making stuff up. And it's strange, given, the formidable organization that he has here in Iowa. So he's obviously spooked by something. And so we expect the kitchen sink here in the next 48 hours.
Ben Sasse, the senator from Nebraska, with whom I believe you've campaigned,
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't endorsed anybody, but he certainly made it very clear that he thinks Trump would be a disaster as a nominee. And he's a constitutional Republican. Sasse has brought up Donald Trump's private life, talking about relationships he's had, extramarital, etc. Is that fair game? Is that kind of thing fair game?
Well, I don't bring it up. I like Ben very much, and it's fair. If he wants to bring it up, you'll have to ask him about it, and I'm not condemning him for it. I'm just telling you that I don't bring that up because, quite frankly, in my mind, that's not the issue in this campaign. This country wants someone that will help undo the damage Barack Obama has done to America. And so that's what I focus on, and that's what my campaign is about. So I can talk to you about the things I say or don't say. What somebody else says, you'll have to ask them, obviously.
You were talking about how voters seem to really like authenticity and genuineness. And when I talk to voters in Iowa, one of the things they say, the Trump supporters, is they don't bring up his policies even. They just like that he says what he thinks, and he doesn't care about political correctness, he doesn't care about ruffling feathers, he's just honest. You are a very disciplined politician. I'm not calling you ungenuine, but you're a very disciplined politician. Do you think that might work against you in a cycle like this?
No, look, people can call it discipline. I'm running on a very specific agenda. I mean, I'm running for president of the United States. I'm not doing this for entertainment. I'm doing this because this country is headed in the wrong direction. 7 years of Barack Obama has done tremendous damage to our economy, to our standing in the world, to our national security. And those are the issues I'm focused on. And I keep talking about them over and over because they're the reasons I'm running. And so Donald's the greatest show on earth. He's very entertaining. But this campaign isn't about that. It's got to be about the serious issues confronting this country. Because if we get this election wrong, there may be no turning back on some of these issues.
Can Trump be stopped?
In terms of the nomination?
Yeah.
Sure. No one is unbeatable. This is a very unusual year. No one is unbeatable. This election is not going to be decided by one or two states. I think the race will narrow after a couple states, but no one, myself or anyone else, is going to have to earn this nomination. And it is going to be a very unusual, highly contested, I think longer than usual process, given the size of the field and given the challenge before the country.
Where can you win? What states can you win?
Well, we try to do well everywhere. You know what? Obviously, I'm not the campaign strategist. You can talk to them about that. I'm running for president, and so what I focus on is I go out every day and try to get as many people as possible to be inspired and believe in our message and vote for me. Whether it's here in Iowa on Monday in the caucus, whether it's in the primary a week later in New Hampshire, what that translates to, we'll see. I feel good about it, but I don't view it that I really don't spend a lot of time thinking about the strategy of it. I spend most of my time thinking about what we need to do when I'm president.
A lot of people out there think that Trump can be stopped, but not if there are so many traditional politicians, which I don't mean as an insult, but traditional politicians in the race. You, Christie, Kasich, Jeb Bush, etc. Do you think after Iowa and New Hampshire, it will be time for some of these traditional candidates to coalesce behind one?
No, you can't force anyone to do that. People are going to run until they feel it's time for them not to. And, I've never called for anyone to get out of the race. I think it'll just happen. I mean, it always happens. So I suspect that after Iowa, there'll be perhaps a candidate or two that may decide not to continue. Certainly after New Hampshire, I think that'll be the case. And so that'll play itself out in due time. But these people have worked very hard. I mean, I'm out there, but they're out there too. They've been working for a year. They've been doing the town halls and shaking of the hands. They deserve to have voters, weigh in on their candidacy and not have somebody calling on anyone to step aside. It'll happen, and it'll happen in at the appropriate time, And no matter what our differences might be, I do respect people that are out there running for president in both parties, because it's hard to do. And having done this, having gone through this now, I have tremendous respect for the people that have done it before and for the people that are doing it now.
One of the things that was interesting about the Republican debate the other night, in addition to the absence of the frontrunner, was the fact that Hillary Clinton was mentioned, I think, 32 times. Barack Obama was mentioned, I think, the same. Donald Trump was only mentioned 14 times. Before you are able to take on Hillary Clinton, as I know you're eager to do, you have to get past the frontrunner. And it seems like a lot of candidates are reluctant to even take him on.
No, I mean, when I've had disagreements with Donald, we've discussed those in the past. Not as much in the debates, but because it just hasn't come up. But we've most certainly done it during the campaign. If you go back to the late fall, you'll see that. But this campaign is not about Republicans tearing each other up. This campaign is about ensuring that we can turn this country around. We're not going to turn this country around if a socialist like Bernie Sanders or someone like Hillary Clinton is elected president of the United States.
Senator, thanks so much.
Thanks,
really
man.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
So.